Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios. This is Football at 4.
Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. And, of course, we are live at the Gallery Bar, Book, and Games at Ocean Casino Resort. And speaking of Ocean, NOLA's having a Halloween party on Saturday, October 29th. You can expect some strange things at NOLA's Bar and Lounge Saturday, October 29th. It's their Halloween costume party. Dress up with your best Halloween look and enter the costume contest for a chance to win prizes so good you'll be spooked. Enjoy drink specials, live entertainment, and more. Learn more at oceanac.com. Mike and Pete live at the Gallery Bar, Book, and Games on the campus, if you will, of Ocean Casino Resort. This place is massive. Yeah. This place is great, and the atmosphere this weekend was fantastic. Phillies Friday, Saturday, and then the Eagles last night, and they had a great crowd here for the Eagles game. Let's break it down. Geoff Mosher, InsideTheBirds.com, the Inside the Birds podcast, and the Inside the Birds pre- and post-game show, which went late last night. They had a late night last night, but the Eagles win 26-17. Jeff, kind of give us an overview of how you would describe their performance last night. I've seen a lot of mixed reviews. You know, people get angry when John Gannon's defense kind of lets off the gas in the third. The Cowboys got back into the game. How would you describe the way that game went?
I don't have one word to describe it, but I thought Dallas was a good team, and I sort of anticipated, even at 20-0, that they weren't going to go away and die. I never really felt that the Cowboys were going to take control of that game. So when I look at what the Eagles do in that game, they've done quite often this year, which is whenever things start to go south or they get a little bit unstable, they just dial up that running game. And you saw that in the third quarter on that long drive. It ended in – there were some nice passes. A.J. Brown turned a nice pass into a longer yard. And, of course, they threw the touchdown to Devontae Smith. But there was, 5 plays in a row that they just ran the ball down Dallas's throat. And they did it against Arizona a week before. They did it against Jacksonville. There have just been times this year where when they want to dominate you in the trenches, they will.
Yeah, it's almost like they can run the ball. I thought yesterday, Moshe, I realistically, I really thought they took that Dallas defense to the woodshed. I mean, Dallas had so many chances. Look, what is Dallas's calling card? That's their defense. I mean, whether Dak Prescott plays or not, their defense is their calling card. They couldn't get off the field. They couldn't get a stop. When it mattered the most, they had multiple opportunities to make plays in that game, and they couldn't get a play. They couldn't get a stop. They couldn't get off the field. And it felt like that was really the difference in the game was Philadelphia got turnovers and stops. Dallas's defense could not.
Yeah, I mean, the offense did not help the defense, right? The Dallas offense didn't help the defense by turning it over 3 times and then not getting a fourth down in its own neck of the woods there, its own side of the field, and then giving the ball to the Eagles. But you're right that when the Eagles wanted to – first of all, the Eagles took their best defensive player basically out of the game by making him a conflict player, having to decide between run-pass. And I'm surprised that they didn't make an adjustment on that earlier. You can they've got excellent pass rushers not named Micah Parsons. Dorrance Armstrong's had a good year. DeMarcus Lawrence has a good year. Dante Fowler has contributed. I mean, they could have tried to put a different player in that position to be the conflict player and had somebody else behind it to make a play if that player was in conflict. But, that's the credit to Eagles. They knew that that's how they used Micah Parsons. They targeted him. It's smart to say if we can't block the guy, we might as well put him in conflict. So that was a good decision on their part. And again, when they wanted to run the ball against this Dallas defense, they were able to do that. But that's how we said this a couple weeks ago against the Jacksonville top-ranked rush defense. We said it last year against the New Orleans Saints top-ranked rush defense. When the Eagles want to run the ball on you, they're not going to always run roughshod, but they're going to at some point roll you over and get positive yards. In fact, I thought the best summary of what the Eagles are, Chris Collinsworth said it last night. He said they're a great combination of power and finesse. And I think that that's really true because they're not just a run team. They can throw the ball on you. They've done both. You can go throughout the Vikings game and other games where they've thrown the ball really well. But when they're done finessing with you, or if that's not worked, they can power you. When they're done powering you, they'll go a little finesse. And so far, 6 weeks in, nobody has found the answer to how to stop that enough.
Geoff Mosher's with us, Football at 4, and I thought you did a nice job touching on the fact that the way they neutralized Micah Parsons, I thought Shane Steichen deserves a huge tip of the cap for his game plan with that. I thought that, and I got caught earlier in the show, Jeff. I said something about Jalen Hurts only had 155 pass yards, and McMullen, that was like serving up a short ball in tennis. He just smashed that one right back at me, because the truth of the matter is Jalen Hurts was very efficient and threw two passing touchdowns. I mean, when he runs for touchdowns, you're like, oh, how come the guy doesn't throw any passing touchdowns? Then he throws 155 yards, but 2 of them were passing touchdowns and at the critical time.
Yeah, right. So Jalen Hurts will be the first to tell you, Pete, and he said it, that there was some meat left on the bone in the passing game, but that's also fairly a good pass defense, a good overall defense. So I'm sure a lot of teams leave some meat on the bone against Dallas because they're afraid of what either Parsons or Armstrong or one of the or DeMarcus Lawrence can do. So it happens. They had a good game plan. They executed it. I think we can all nitpick and talk about the pass offense or the sputtering second half offense, but I think a fair response to that would be if the Eagles didn't have these lulls or dry spells, let's say, what were they? It was 20-0 at halftime, or 23, right?
20-3,
if you duplicate that, if you play as well in the second half as you do in the first, then you win 40-6. So we talk about this every single game. How many teams average 40 points a game and win 40-6 week after week after week? 0, right? So it's a little bit of a nitpick and an unrealistic expectation to say, like, the Eagles should be doing better from when they score 26 points. Like, I get it. I understand that scoring a ton of points in the second quarter and not much in the half might come back to bite you. But if it does and you lose a game or two and finish 15-2, did you really get bit, or did you just inevitably lose a game like everybody does? I just think that if you're averaging 25 to 30 points a game, what does it matter when those points come from? You put the other team in conflict.
Well, and then there's the whole matter of the defense, right? Which is the third quarter, Gannon got undressed. He didn't make any adjustments. The Cowboys went down the field. They got back in the game. You look at the stats afterwards, this team's top 5 in just about every major defensive statistical category. I mean, what are we supposed to take from their defense?
Well, all right. So the Cowboys did something that I talked about a lot in the offseason when we knew they were going to play this 5-1 structure, 5-2 sometimes. And that's when you put 5 guys at the line of scrimmage and play that kind of defense, you do leave voids in the flats. You saw the bootlegs, right, worked well because everybody gets sucked into the run and the quarterback rolls out and it hits a guy in the flat, leaves you vulnerable when an offense goes spread and can hit. You got one-on-one matchups everywhere. You get a quick rub route. So that style of defense, I don't know why. Maybe I have to watch the tape. Maybe Dallas tried to do it in the first half more and just weren't successful. But I always thought a team like Dallas that has good blocking and catching tight ends and can run and throw equally well would be a tough matchup for the Eagles when the Eagles play that front. And what they did was in the second half, they attacked that front with those little passes to the edges to move the sticks. And then when the Eagles were in a 4-man front, which is usually their second and third down defense, the Cowboys did a great job of running because then you can get double teams with your 5-man offensive line. And the one Achilles heel, and again, we're being nitpicky here, about the Eagles is I don't think they are built to stop the run very well. Javon Hargrave, Fletcher Cox, certainly Jordan Davis is, but he only plays limited amount of snaps.
Right.
And then they have smaller linebackers. So you saw when the Eagles were in a 4-man front, and the Cowboys, who have a good offensive line, were getting those double-team blocks up front, they were able to move the ball well, and Zeke Elliott has always been a good running back against the Eagles. So that's how – Dallas is good. They have good players, and that's why they were able to move the ball. They schematically got that offense going. And but we're 6 weeks into the season. That's the first time I've seen someone be able to do it for a little bit. The Lions did a little bit too. But the Eagles are 6-0, and they only gave up, how many points? 17 points. So, again – you're not going to shut everybody out. You're going to be loose in some area, and it just hasn't hurt the Eagles yet.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head right there, Jeff, when you're talking about the fact that as that game got close, I'll granted, I'm in the stands, I'm not up in the press box. I'm down there where people are chirping at me, and a guy kept turning around to me. He was actually wearing a Jerome Brown jersey, but kept turning around to me and saying, where's Jordan Davis? Where's Jordan Davis? Where's Jordan Davis? And we heard earlier in the show, and you just said it as well. The reality is that he's not a 4-down guy, and that that this 5-man front versus 4-man front. The other thing that you miss, I think,
he might be a 4-down guy
eventually.
If Hargrave and Cox aren't taking all those. Like if those guys aren't here, he may have played more, right?
Yeah, and I guess what I'm asking is, could he develop into a 4-down guy?
Yeah, he has played a small percentage of snaps this year as a 3 technique, a defensive tackle and a 4-man front, but not a lot. And you just guys hit it on the head. When you're in that kind of formation, you're really trying to rush the passer in your nickel formation, and that's what you have Javon Hargrave and Fletcher Cox for. And also, Jordan Davis is really has not been in his career yet an accomplished pass rusher. And secondarily to that, he is such a gigantic human being who only played limited amount of reps at Georgia. I say this all the time. Why would you think someone who only played 20% of the snaps at Georgia is going to come to the NFL and play 50% of the snaps? Do you think Kirby Smart's a moron? No, he's not. He knows his personnel. So Jordan Davis has to get conditioned, and he has to work on his technique and his leverage, which he's doing a good job of. He's starting to play more snaps, but you're not going to see him just jump for a variety of reasons that we just mentioned. He ain't going from 22% to 60%.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, you have this yearning from, I guess, people, which is you need to get more pressure. I thought Gannon last night in that third quarter, he's waiting for that moment, but it's that balance between I can pressure Cooper Rush into mistakes, or I can make him try to read defenses, and I don't think he's all that good at that either. They ended up with 3 interceptions in the game, right? I mean, so it says that I don't know. I feel like everybody just, if you don't get sacks, you're not doing your job. That's the only criteria of successful defense in this area.
I mean, there was a part of me in the third quarter that thought, okay, if you want, you can punch back now, right? Like Dallas is starting to make its move. They're starting to counter. You can throw a blitz in there and see what happens. And I think that it's fair and arguable that he could. But I also agree that, if your philosophy was that Cooper Rush is going to make a mistake because our 4-man rush at some point is going to get to him, well, then Jonathan Gannon was right. I mean, he made several mistakes because he was throwing quickly and hurried. Now, the other person could say, yeah, but if you had maybe tried to blitz him 3 or 4 more times, maybe you would have pulled away earlier in this game and forced more mistakes. I don't know. There's arguments to be made on both sides. But as I always say, he's going to sit there at the bench in trial and say we're 6-0 and our defense is ranked in the top half or the top third, so my defense rests.
Well, I guess
it doesn't rest.
I guess the thought is if I blitz this guy, the one thing that can happen potentially is they get a big play and gets them back in the game. If I don't blitz them, I have no fear that they're going to get over the top on us, and they're going to have Cooper Rush lead them on multiple 10-play drives. And I don't think that's going to happen.
Right. And that absolutely was his philosophy. And he was right about it.
Right. And in the end, Cooper Rush made 3 mistakes. Right. And it's not because they blitzed him. It's because he had to read a defense that had 6-7 guys dropping back. And in the end, he's not good enough to do that.
Well, that's what I want to ask you about.
By the way, when the quarterback was Kirk Cousins, he did blitz. It's not like he's completely afraid. He just knows that Cooper Rush, as Mike just said, it's unlikely he's going to have 6, 7, 8, score or 10-play drives without making a mistake.
These little moves that took place in the offseason and before the season started that Howie did to get Bradbury, for example, to get CJG. And I thought the effort that he had last night looked like he was holding his hand and he wasn't, and I heard people give analysis last night that, a lot of times guys in the league, they'll go in and get an x-ray and they'll be like, that's it, I'm done. I'm checking out. And that guy not only came back, but he got another interception. Is this as good a secondary as they've ever had?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I've covered the team since 2015. It's going to be hard to replicate the first one that the one of Lito, Sheldon, Brian Dawkins, and Michael Lewis. That was pretty good. But since then, there hasn't been one like this. I mean, the 2017 team was very talented at safety because they had Corey Graham as a third safety. They had Malcolm. They had Rodney playing really well. But even at corner, Darby missed 10 games, and they had to kind of fill in with Jalen Watkins, with Patrick Robinson, with Rasul Douglas, and then on the other side they had Jalen Mills. So I think this is it's partly it's personnel, Pete, but they're also playing a style of defense that we really haven't seen here in 20 years with matchup zones and man mirror matching and things like that, and 5-man fronts. It's kind of cool just to see something different and seeing it work.
And yet everybody hates the defensive coordinator.
Everybody hates everything. No, this is such a great week. Come on, let's not be that. I mean, the Phillies and the Eagles. People are happy.
Okay, listen, to throw on top of that, things that don't happen, the Phillies are winning, the Flyers are 2-0. We don't talk about linebackers, but I think the role the linebackers have had and why this defense is complete, because they are not a unit. Teams used to game plan. What number did Geary wear? 27, I think. 47. Where is 47? Let's find 47 and go right after him. Oh, God. They don't have a guy that they can do that with
Singleton.
on this team.
Oh, God, that just gives me
chills. Or
Singleton,
49, or Duke Riley, 50, I think he was. I mean, there was a rotation of them.
Right, but they don't have a guy on the field that you can
it's
say, let's find that guy and go after him.
You're right. I agree with you. I think Kazir White and T.J. Edwards have been very good.
The play Kazir
the last two
White,
games, I think you've seen a little bit different.
The play Kazir White made in the first drive, when he is defending C.D. Lamb. He's running stride for stride with C.D. Lamb and breaks the pass up. I think Bradbury has just completed the defense. Right, you're looking around, and you're right. They don't really have that weak spot in this defense. I guess it comes down to you're going to have to really have your best day to beat them.
You are. You're going to have to. I think you're going to have to run the ball extraordinarily well. You're going to have good receivers and flood that matchup zone, and a quarterback who can throw in rhythm quickly, decipher where he wants to go. There's only like 5 guys who are playing at that level in this league. You're not going to face Josh Allen this year. You're not facing Patrick Mahomes this year. You're not facing Brady this year. I mean, Matt Ryan's had a good day yesterday. He was terrible the week before, so you never know.
Yeah.
You got Kenny. I mean, their next 3. Listen to this. Their next 3 opponents have a total of 5 wins. The Eagles have 6. Their next 3 opponents right now have a total of 5.
Wow.
I think Indianapolis has 2, right? Pittsburgh has 2, and then Houston has 1, if I'm not mistaken, or something like that. Maybe it's 6 wins. But
Houston's 1, ridiculous. Steelers are 2, so that's 3. Colts are 3, and the Commanders are 2. 3, 5.
Oh, the Colts. All right, Commanders. Right. Yeah. I forgot. Yeah.
3, 6. 8 over the next 4. Yeah. The next 4 opponents.
Yeah.
Find the one you're afraid of,
guys. That's
here's another one. You're 6-0, right? Wait, here's another one. You're 6-0, right? You got 11 games left. Let's say the apocalypse happens and somehow you go 5-6 over the next 11 games. You still win 11 games.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. You
get
the 3rd or 4th seed.
Yeah, and the story is going to be, guys, they haven't beaten anybody all year. So what does that mean when you get in the playoffs? And my story is there's no one to beat.
Yeah.
There's no one. Who would you say, Mosher, right now is the next team, your biggest competition for that home field? The Giants? Minnesota?
Part of me. No, I think the Giants are a much improved team. I don't think they're necessarily paper Tigers. I mean, to beat Tennessee, to beat Green Bay. Who'd they beat the week before Green Bay? I forget. They've got decent wins. It's not like they're just collecting wins against, crappy teams. So they're better, but I don't think that they're on the Eagles level yet by any stretch of the means. I keep thinking Green Bay will figure this thing out, and I keep being wrong week to week. So, but again, I'm not putting them digging the dirt on their grave. And I've also said that the Frank Reich Colts kind of remind me of those Andy Reid 2006-10 teams, which always started slow and then figured it out because they've got good players. There's good players on that team. They're just beat up right now, and I think that they will figure it out. And maybe this yesterday was a big jump for them. So I do think the Colts will be a challenge, and I think the Packers, when they play them, will be a challenge. But if you go through a 17-game season and 3 teams were a challenge for you, or 4, I mean, what does that tell you?
It tells you they might have the third easiest schedule in the entire league, or
League's
one
bad.
of the easiest schedules in the entire league. Geoff Mosher's with us for Football at 4. Another thing I did want to ask you about, I had forgotten a minute ago, that and these are the things you miss when you're in the stands and you're not watching it on. When Lane Johnson went out of that game, Jack Driscoll. It's like that old that debate, Senator. You're no John F. Kennedy, right? I mean, Jack Driscoll, you're no Lane Johnson.
He is not. And it wouldn't be fair to ask him to be. And I think I've seen him play better, Pete, at right tackle. Trey Thomas talked to us about this in the post-game show that we did yesterday. I think when you ask a guy to go from right tackle to then playing left tackle for 2 weeks where he'd never played before, then back to right tackle, it's very easy to lose your footwork and mechanics. Your inside leg changes each time. Mm-hmm. And therefore, when you're trying to kick back and vertical set, it's all up in your mind. Like, am I supposed to have my right leg back or left leg back? And then, of course, you throw in the fact that it's Micah Parsons and some other great pass rushers that you're dealing with. It's, I'm not trying to defend the guy. It's not like he played great, but I think there's reasons for that. And, of course, you expect a natural drop-off and the other team to smell blood when Lane Johnson comes out and Driscoll comes in.
Perfect week for a bye week. The Phillies get the NLCS. The Eagles have the week off, and we'll have Football at 4 getting you ready for the bye week here, right here on the Sports Bash Live. Don't forget InsideTheBirds.com, Inside the Birds podcast. Phillies tomorrow night, Game 1. You can listen to it right here on 97.3 ESPN. All right, Moshe, take care, buddy.
Guys, that Hoskins home run, man, that is going to – I just will never forget it. I
That's
don't think I'll ever forget
Robinson
the Hoskins
moment,
home run.
Right? That's the Patrick Robinson moment.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. All right, bud. Have a great one, guys.
Thanks, Jeff.
Geoff Mosher.